In my personal life, I struggle, but I'm a Christian. I try to be faithful. I'm very faithful to my wife, my family, my kids. I take seriously the oath of office to defend the Constitution. I try to vote for policy and enact policy and be for policy regardless of political outcome. I'm lucky in the sense that I have a job to go back to. I don't mind being unelected. I say I'm not afraid to be unelected. I see decisions that our government make, virtually all of them, in moral terms. Does that mean I'm some sort of zealot that thinks I'm always morally correct in my position? No. But I think there are moral considerations to almost everything, even fiscal things. Is it morally right for us to spend things that don't belong to us, to spend things that belong to the next generation, to our kids and our grandkids, to put them in debt, and then us leave the world, just leave them with all this massive debt? We've had such a great country. To leave the burden of that to another generation, I just don't think it's right. And while some of you may have heard me defend, against all kinds of government intrusions and particular rights to do this and that, to not tell you how much water's in your commode, what kind of shower head you have, what kind of light bulb you have, those things are important to me. But ultimately, they all derive from one primal right, from one thing that we get from our Creator, and that's the right to life. I don't think that a civilization can long endure that doesn't respect life. Born, not yet born, from conception to the very last breath of life, we have to respect life. In medical school, I refused to participate in abortions, and that wasn't always possible. I was affected greatly by my father's experiences in his book. He has a book called Abortion and Liberty, and I think it's a great book because it's different than many other books you'll ever see. It's not, you have to really look for it to find it on the internet, but you can find it. In it, he talks about it from a rights position. A lot of people think, oh, you have the right to choose. You have a right to choose. Well, no, you have to have a right to life to get a right to choose. The right to choose comes after having the right to life. When he tells about a story when he was in medical school, and he goes into a room, accidentally bumbles into an operating room, and medical students don't get to do the procedures. They're usually there to watch. And it's an abortion. And the baby's born alive and cries, and it's left to die in a corner. Meanwhile, 2 rooms down, baby, same size, same gestation, same age of progress in life, is teams of doctors are struggling to keep them alive, put them on a ventilator. The hypocrisy of killing a baby the same age and trying to save a baby in the next room. It made no sense to him, and it horrified him. As a teenager, I gave my first public speaking. I hope I'm better now, but I was awful at the time. My hands were shaking, I had my cards. But my first public speech was in my church, and basically I was a little bit, I guess even then, not afraid to sort of speak my mind. I chided them for not taking a position on abortion, for just saying, oh, well, that's something that's not part of what we do in our church. Well, if we're not going to do it in our church, who's going to do it? Our liberty comes from our Creator. Unless we understand where it comes from, I think we can't get started. We have to understand where our rights are derived from. In order to protect the unborn, I think we need to actively do things too. Steve Scheffler and Ralph Reed have talked about how we get involved, how we do things. In Congress, I've taken that same approach. We've gotten involved with pro-life legislation, and we plan on trying to get votes on it. We've introduced the Life at Conception Act, the Pro-Life Act, the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act, the Child Interstate Abortion Notification Act. I'm also a co-sponsor of the Human Life Amendment. I also have been trying to defund Planned Parenthood. Anybody here for that? And I think personally we should extend our strategy beyond abortion on that, because there's a completely fiscal argument for it too. One, it's a money, it's wasteful money. But two, They've put billions of dollars into these community health centers that do everything that Planned Parenthood does except for abortion. So we should simply argue and say, it's duplicate service, it's a waste of money, and you don't need it. I think we strengthen our argument that way. The president, recently weighed in on marriage, and he said that his views were evolving on marriage. And call me cynical, but I wasn't sure that his views on marriage could get any gayer. Now, it did kind of bother me, though, that he used the justification for it in a biblical reference. He said the biblical golden rule caused him to be for gay marriage. And I'm like, what version of the Bible is he reading? It's not the King James Version. It's not the New American Standard. It's not the New Revised Version. I don't know what version he's getting that from. Now, that doesn't mean we have to be harsh and mean and hate people. We understand sin, and if we believe it's a sin, we still understand that people sin. And we understand that we're not out there preaching some sort of hateful dogma against people. But that doesn't mean that we have to go ahead and give up our traditions. We've got 6,000 years of tradition. There's a lot of stability, even beyond religion. There's stability in the family unit. Just from an anthropological point of view, the family is a really important thing. We shouldn't just give up on it. I think that our country, basically, we have a lot of political problems, and you need people like Senator Grassley and hopefully myself to try to fix some of these problems. I don't think we're going to fix all of them. I think there are problems that are beyond the political discourse. I think we are in a spiritual crisis as a country, and I think you're going to need leaders beyond your political leaders. But I think you need some great leaders to rise up and become spokesmen, outspoken in these issues. I see things that just really make me think that our society is sick. There was a YouTube video not too long ago in McDonald's, filmed by the workers with 10 people standing around of someone being kicked to the point of convulsions. Nobody intervened. The person's laying on the ground and they're just kicking them to the point of convulsions. And it's being filmed by young people who are not intervening. I think finally a woman in her 60s tries to stop this. That's a sickness in our society that we have to do something about. We can't make a law about that. I mean, obviously there's a law against violence, but we can't make people, we got to get people out there who are talking about how we recover and find our moral bearings. There was another case, and I hesitate to even, this one bothers me even to think about it. It's so horrendous that it was out there. In my hometown in Bowling Green, a woman's baby was cut from her and she was left to die so they could steal her baby. In a small town in America. I mean, there is a sickness out there that needs more than just political leadership. We need spiritual leadership. And this isn't to mean you can't have religious people in public office. I love what, Ralph always says, the First Amendment, is not about, it's about keeping government out of religion, but it's not about keeping religious people out of government. On the theme of having a spiritual revival in the country, in 1801 in Cane Ridge, Kentucky, is up a little bit north of Lexington, there began a revival. I can't remember if it was the First Great Awakening or the Second Great Awakening, so you have to help me. But it was 1801, and there was a pastor by the name of Barton Stone. But people came by the tens of thousands to these tent meetings. There was a storm gathering in the country, and people sensed it. I think that storm is gathering out there, and I think we need to be prepared for it. Will the precipitation mainly mean the breakdown of society before we have a political catastrophe? Maybe. I think we're gradually heading in that direction. Or will it be a political crisis or a grave calamity in society that brings on a spiritual crisis, that brings on mayhem, that requires some sort of leadership? Whatever it is, I think we face a day of reckoning, and we need to do whatever it takes to wake up the rest of the country. We need to do whatever it takes to try to save our republic. And what I tell people is, in that cause, I'll do the best that I can. Thank you very much.